Black Hollow, a town draped in shadows even on the brightest days. The name itself felt heavy, like a whispered warning. Nestled at the edge of a sprawling forest, it held a darkness far older than any map could show. The townsfolk knew the stories. They were passed down through generations, each tale more chilling than the last. They spoke of the Lantern Man. He was said to roam the woods at twilight, his lantern a beacon in the fading light, a lure for the lost and the foolish. Those who strayed from the path, drawn to the warm glow, were never seen again. Their fates remained a mystery, woven into the fabric of Black Hollow's grim folklore. Some whispered that he stole their souls, trapping them within his lantern's ethereal glow. Others believed he took them to a place far worse, a place from which there was no return. Evelyn Kincaid scoffed at the legends. A seasoned journalist known for her sharp wit and even sharper skepticism, she thrived on uncovering the truth, no matter how deeply buried. The supernatural to her was nothing more than smoke and mirrors, easily explained away with logic and reason. When a story about the Lantern Man landed on her desk, she saw it as just another assignment, another chance to debunk a myth and expose the charlatans who profited from fear. Black Hollow, with its eerie tales and superstitious whispers, would be her next conquest. She arrived in the town with a notebook full of questions and a mind determined to find answers. The locals, wary of outsiders and bound by their traditions, greeted her with a mixture of suspicion and fear. Their warnings, steeped in generations of folklore, did little to deter her. Instead, they fueled her determination to unravel the truth behind the legend. Little did she know, Black Hollow had a way of testing even the most steadfast convictions. The disappearance of Billy Granger shook Black Hollow to its core. A young man known for his adventurous spirit and carefree nature, Billy had become the latest victim in a string of unsolved cases. He had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a void in the community and a chilling question that hung in the air. Had the Lantern Man claimed another soul? The townsfolk whispered amongst themselves, their faces etched with a mixture of grief and fear. Evelyn, sensing a story far deeper than a simple missing person case, dove headfirst into the investigation. She interviewed the locals, each testimony adding a new layer of unease to the already unsettling narrative. The more she learned about Billy's disappearance, the more she began to question her own skepticism. The details were too specific, too eerie to ignore. Could there be some truth to the legend after all? Driven by a growing sense of unease and a journalist's relentless pursuit of the truth, Evelyn decided to venture into the heart of the legend, the forest. As twilight descended upon Black Hollow, casting long, eerie shadows across the town, she stood at the edge of the woods. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The last rays of sunlight struggled to penetrate the dense canopy, creating a mosaic of light and shadow that danced ominously on the forest floor. Evelyn took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. She could feel the weight of the forest pressing in on her, the silence broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant caw of a crow. It was a symphony of nature, both beautiful and unnerving. Each step deeper into the woods filled her with a sense of foreboding, a feeling that she was being watched, that something lurked just beyond her sight. As darkness enveloped the forest, swallowing the last vestiges of daylight, Evelyn stumbled upon a sight that sent a shiver down her spine. There in the distance, bobbing gently amidst the trees, was a light, a single solitary light. It pulsed with an ethereal green glow, casting eerie shadows that stretched and contorted like living things. Her heart pounded in her chest, a drumbeat of fear against her ribs. Could this be it? The legendary lantern of the Lantern Man? Logic battled with the growing unease that gnawed at her insides. It could be anything, she reasoned. A trick of the light, a lost camper, a figment of her imagination playing tricks on her. But something about the light, the way it seemed to beckon her forward, filled her with a sense of dread she couldn't ignore. Drawn by a force she couldn't explain, Evelyn found herself following the light deeper and deeper into the forest. The path, barely visible in the darkness, twisted and turned, leading her further and further astray. The trees seemed to close in around her, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers, their leaves rustling like whispered warnings. The forest had taken on a life of its own, a labyrinth designed to trap her, to keep her lost within its depths. The air grew colder, the silence broken only by the sound of her own ragged breathing and the crunching of leaves beneath her feet. She called out, hoping for a response, something, anything, to break the oppressive silence. But the only answer was the echo of her own voice, swallowed by the darkness. Fear, cold and primal, began to grip her heart. She was lost, hopelessly lost, and the light, the beckoning light, continued to lead her further into the unknown. The light led her to a clearing, a small, desolate island in a sea of trees. And there, standing in the center, holding aloft a lantern that pulsed with an unnatural green glow, was a figure, tall and skeletal, draped in a long, ragged cloak that seemed to absorb the surrounding darkness. It stood motionless, its face obscured by the shadows of its hood. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat, her mind struggling to comprehend the sight before her. This was no mere legend. This was real, the Lantern Man. As she stared at the figure, paralyzed by fear, the figure slowly turned its head towards her. A cold, hollow laugh echoed through the clearing, sending chills down her spine. The lantern's light flickered, and for a fleeting moment, Evelyn caught a glimpse of the creature's face. It was a horrifying visage, a skull-like mask of bone and shadow, its eyes burning with an unnatural, malevolent light. The next morning, the search party that ventured into the woods found no trace of Evelyn Kincaid. Her disappearance, shrouded in mystery and fueled by the chilling legend of the Lantern Man, became another dark chapter in Black Hollow's history. Some whispered that she had finally gotten the story she had been chasing, her skepticism swallowed by the very darkness she sought to unravel. Others believed that she had become another lost soul, trapped within the Lantern Man's ethereal glow, destined to wander the woods for eternity. The legend of the Lantern Man lived on, more potent and terrifying than ever before. The townsfolk spoke of seeing the lantern's eerie green glow flickering between the trees, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked at the edge of their world. And as the years passed, new stories emerged, whispers of those who had strayed from the path, lured by the light, only to vanish without a trace. The cycle continued, a chilling testament to the enduring power of fear and the darkness that lay hidden within the human heart. Months later, a package arrived at Evelyn's old apartment. Inside, her notebook lay open, filled with frantic scribbles and chilling sketches. On the last page, a single sentence, scrawled in shaky handwriting, sent a chill down the spine of the detective who dared read it. "It's not the light you should fear," it read, "but what casts the shadow." Beneath the sentence, a crude drawing depicted not the Lantern Man, but a towering, shapeless darkness, and within it, 2 pinpricks of malevolent green light. The investigation, it seemed, was far from over. The legend of the Lantern Man had only just begun.